Good morning, everybody. I regret to inform you that we are out of chalice lighters this morning. Long weekend and everything, so I thought we would light this chalice for all of you adults. Who's having a birthday this year? I was... You don't have to. Come on up, Cindy. Cindy, thank you for coming up. Are you having a birthday?
I am, next Thursday.
Next Thursday. And how old are you going to be? Okay, I'm reframing this whole thing.
I'm going to be 71.
Whoa, I just turned 65. So, let's move on. This light is for all of us, and especially you, Cindy.
I don't know how to do this. So sit yours.
No, it's very, very stressful. And that's why.
Need a new candle.
That's right. If we just raised more money, we could have had a new candle up here. Oh, sorry. We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering. Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm going to do, hopefully, can you hear me? There we go. The opening story. Marcus has made very, very few mistakes in the 2 years that he's been here, but, well, this is one of them. I said I would tell him what I've learned from him, because in a few minutes he's going to tell us what he's learned from us. And I just want to say what an incredible privilege it is to have been here for these 2 years. The first item is kind of like an odd thing. For 80 times we have had a service here and we've had a presentation from one of our ministers. And every single time, for me, the ones I've been to, it's been outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And although I've only been here for 18 of the 19 ministers, so I can't speak for everything, but that hasn't been the norm here. It's been a bit of a Buddhist wave, great ones, not so great ones. And as a former teacher up at the college, where I had to do 18 hours of teaching every week, the idea that you might not be able to hit 20 minutes once a week, every week, struck me as odd, but it's happened. And that's not all. I think Marcus and Emily have put in everything they've got into everything that they've done for 2 years. And the learning I've had is in the music program. And I don't know whether Allison has felt that too, but it's just been pulled out of us because of the atmosphere that we have had, that I have learned more about that from you and from Emily. I spent yesterday retuning an old lute of mine that I haven't worked on for 40 years because it had a split in the wood. And after 40 years, I got the split healed. And the congregation has had a split for a long time, and that is healed in these 2 years. There used to be a split between theists, and it's gone. And we can restring, as I was doing yesterday for 9 hours, because 15 strings is a lot. The other thing is the polish, the services. I'm on the Sunday service committee. We have polished, under Marcus and Emily's guidance, each part of this. Do you remember what announcements used to be? Years ago, there'd be a big lineup, and people would come up, and some of the stuff you didn't want to hear. And announcements are now just a seamless part of this presentation. I have learned a lot, and I am the better for it. And I want to thank you. And that's why I come to church.
So this is a story that comes from Sudan. Have you ever heard of Sudan? Yeah, it's a country far away, but it's a country where there was once a man who lived named Ate. And this is a true story. It happened about 200 years ago. This man, Ate, he lived with his family far from the main road. There was one big road that went through the area, like a big caravan road. And Ate lived far off of it, next to a river, with his enormous family. Ate had 7 sons, I think, and 9 daughters, and they all had spouses, and they all had children. He had 63 grandchildren. And some of them even had spouses. Their whole family lived right there in that spot near the river, way off the beaten path. And they were almost like a village unto themselves, Ate and his family. And Ate and his family, they would rarely see visitors. They mostly took care of all their needs right there. The river was a wonderful source of water and allowed them to plant all the plants they needed, and they would hunt for food, and they would take care of everything they needed all on their own. They'd go to town occasionally for some treats like sugar or cloth. Do you like cloth? How about sugar? Yeah? Hey, how's it going, Johnny? Oh, thank you. So, one day there were some merchants. There were a dozen merchants who were wandering, and they had gotten lost. They'd gotten lost in the forest near Ate's home, and they couldn't find their way back, and they were lost actually for days off of the road, these dozen merchants and their whole caravan. And eventually, one morning, they heard the sound of a rooster crowing, and they thought, oh, rooster, that means there are people. And they got so excited, they followed it, and they found Ate and his family. And Ate and his family welcomed them in. They welcomed them in. They gave them each a sheep. It was a special gift that you were supposed to give visitors. They were so kind and generous, and they were just following the ways of their people. But they offered this generosity to these merchants. They took care of them while they stayed there. Great hospitality. The merchants were so thankful. They asked if they could pay for it, and Ate said, no, this is just how we do things here. They jumped over the sheep. That was one of the traditional practices. You would have to jump over the sheep that they gave you. I don't know why, but they did it. And then the merchants went on their way, and Ate said, if you ever are in the area again, come back, bring friends. We love to have visitors. So the next year, the merchants were on that very route again, and they remembered where Ate lived, and they went and they visited the big village of Ate's family, and this time they had some friends with them, and they had parties and feasts, and Ate's family again hosted them all, welcomed them generously, gave them all that they needed. The word spread. The word spread about this special place well off the main caravan route. And over the years, as people came off the route and to visit Ate and his whole big family, they would always host them generously. Eventually, so many people came that a big village did grow up there. It became one of the most important spots along the caravan route. And eventually, the people going to Ate's village, the tracks that they left, the mark they left on the land, was deeper and bigger and more visible than the original caravan route. And so the road bent to go to Ate and his family. And so they renamed Ate, actually. He had a new name that meant road bender. And in Sudan to this day, people tell stories about the road bender and how his generosity was able to bend the road. And I wonder how many places in the world that's happened. These acts of generosity, this caring quality of community has bent the path. And I know that's happened for me and for many here. Will you make a bridge and we'll sing our children out? From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. The sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." The sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. Words from the Sufi poet Hafiz. All I have to say today is thank you. I'll take 20 minutes to say it, but that's all I have to say. Thank you for the sun-like love that you've shown me, that you've shown our family. Thank you for the privilege of these 2 years as your minister. When Emily and I sat down for the first time with the North Shore Unitarian Search Committee, we knew something was different right away. And it wasn't just the view from Sue and Barry's penthouse condo overlooking the shining city and shimmering sea. Actually, the first day it was the gray city and sea, but it got shiny. It wasn't just the identical dossiers, the one that I know that Melissa Pitcher must have meticulously assembled, that each member of the committee held neatly in front of them, though that was a clue. More so, there was a care in the questions, an intentionality and thoughtfulness that spoke volumes about the maturity of this community. And I had no idea then just how grateful for that maturity I would be as you have held our family through this difficult and too soon ending. Each conversation after that service, when I first announced the news with board members, with various teams, you have graciously and wholeheartedly led with compassion. It may have felt like, of course, to some of you, but it's been a great gift to me, and I thank you. And I do think it's a sign of your health and maturity. Not in every congregation would that be, of course, that compassion in the face of hard news. But let me be more specific, because I've been noticing lately a lot of things that I'm grateful for here. I'm grateful for your willingness. There may be complaints and wishes for new bodies to step up, but here, when there's work to be done, there are people who are willing to do it. We sang, "I am open, I am willing," during the first service that we led with you, and I could tell you meant it. Your willingness, your culture of yes, for the gracious space you made, for our wide-eyed dreaming. I thank you for your willingness. I'm grateful for your curiosity. I'm sure I've heard, "Well, why not?" from you much more often than, "Well, that's the way we've always done things." There are these precious moments that happen in meetings here. I swear they happen more often here than in other communities I've been in. Moments where we're all just about ready to resign ourselves to what seems like an inevitable solution, even though it's not all that satisfying, when somebody boldly and curiously pipes up and asks if something else is possible. And more often than not, instead of a reactive no, the group takes a deep breath and pauses. Though they're tired and the meeting's gone on a little longer than folks have liked, they allow themselves to dwell in the curiosity, to open to previously unimagined possibilities. It didn't seem like we could pull off the Our Whole Lives OWL class for high schoolers this year, but Leslie Girodi kept curiously wondering if there might be a way, and now we've got 15 youth showing up for it. When the idea of changing washroom signs emerged with all its gnarly tangles, you stayed curious, kept asking how to make it better, how to make it more inclusive, make it work for everyone, really. I thank you for your curiosity. I'm grateful for your excellence. One point last year, I was walking with Samaya Oakley around a lake at our minister's retreat near Nanaimo. I don't remember what I was saying I had noticed that day in my work with you, but she had a knowing look in her eye and said, North Shore has a culture of excellence. They pull excellence out of you. And I felt this from you in the best way. It feels kind of like the teachers I've had, the special teachers who I wanted to do my best work for, who pulled wisdom and insight out from me that I wasn't aware was there. Part of that culture of excellence, I think, is your commitment to growing and learning from experience. You know, the notes that Sue Forbes has on church literature, they should be a UUA resource. The questions that I've heard you ask anytime something goes awry. The first question I hear from you most often, what can we learn from this? I thank you for your excellence. I'm grateful for your playfulness. I really think this is a community that knows how to have fun and play together. 2 months into our time with you, our first Halloween, we led our first intergenerational service. I was a bit nervous. I'd led pickup pageants like that before. I know you don't think I'm nervous, but I do get nervous. I had no idea how it would go, but you jumped right in. I'll never forget the way that John Duffy played that little boy who lost his mom, or Maurice Gibbons' gentle but terrifying embodiment of death. That last spring, when Elaine Duvall turned fundraising for the projection system into a silly game with secret envelopes. The wry humor, especially from the gentlemen of a certain age here, always keeping me on my toes. I thank you for your playfulness. I'm grateful for your boldness. When something needs to be said, someone will say it. It may take some time, but someone will say it. And from that boldness, you are a community of great vision. It's one of the key things that attracted Emily and me to you. It will attract more great ministers in your future. Before we ever had even heard of this congregation, this is what you said about the future of your community. We are known as a community that is innovative, welcoming, and evolving, providing a courageous vision that encourages lifelong learning and inspires people to participate and grow spiritually in this life. We are known as a diverse community that is strong, joyful, and inspiring, where each person is valued. We are known for living our values and principles, for growing spiritually through service and action, for walking our talk. I've known you to be such a community. And I know you will be ever more so as you walk boldly into your future. I thank you for your boldness. And finally, I'm grateful for your trust. You trusted a couple of 30-year-olds, younger than many of your kids. I know you were having these thoughts. You didn't tell us when we first arrived. Some of you have told me now. You trusted us to be your ministers. Trusted us with your free pulpit, trusted us to lead your wonderful staff team, trusted us to vision and lead your board, trusted us to take responsibility for the ministries of the church, for much of its operations, and turned its focus to the big picture policy and high-level vision and strategy work. You trusted us with your stories, your worries, your secret hopes. You trusted us with stories of family, of grief and joy, of bewilderment, of liberation. In February, you trusted me with stories of perseverance that gave me strength to walk through my own despair. I thank you for your trust. The sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." A friend and colleague, adult in the congregation who I grew up in, a minister now, Dana Worsnop, writes this: "Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know just what they are getting at, and I know they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no names at all for God. I want to be with people who see me in goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. I have had the great honor and privilege of being with such people. You are truly such people. And as great as you are, I want to remind you, I feel called to remind you about what the church is. Because I think we get this confused sometimes. The church is not its programs. It's not its website, as nice and cleaned up as it is, or its nice new chairs, or AV system. The church is not its lovely old sanctuary nestled in the woods. It won't be its modern and vibrant fancy new space in Sealand Village or wherever you end up. The church is not its budget. It's not its membership or attendance numbers, not to say that those aren't important. The church is certainly not its ministers. The church isn't even exactly you, its people, because its people come and go. Fundamentally, the church is connection. The invisible gossamer strands that link us each to another, strands that connect us across time and space. And it's good news because those strands, they don't break. And we've taken some important steps together these past 2 years. And I've heard your appreciation for the work that Emily and I have done in that, and I appreciate that. But all the work that we've done together was rooted in the vision and strength that you already had when we got here. It was rooted in gossamer strands trailing back to a time when you built a dynamic community with no minister at all. It was rooted in gossamer strands tying you to the inspiring leadership of Rod Stewart and deep commitment of John Cox, the gossamer strands of each member, each friend, each minister, each staff person who are part of the spiritual ancestry of this community. A Unitarian minister once famously charged his colleague on the occasion of his installation, "You are not in charge here. This is not your church. And you are not indispensable. You can and will be replaced." Perhaps harsh in these words, yet an undeniable truth, the magnitude of the project of church necessitates that ministers be replaceable. Words from Elder Olson, nothing is lost. Nothing is lost. The universe is honest. Time, like the sea, gives back all in the end. But only in its own way, on its own conditions. Empires as grains of sand. Forests as coal. Mountains as pebbles. Be still. Be still, I say. You were never the water, only a wave. You were never the water, only a wave, not substance, but a form, substance assumed. Not substance, but a form, substance assumed. When we're doing this right, ministers are not the water, only a wave. Not substance, but a form, substance assumed. And yet, through this dance we've done together, you and we both have been transformed. Both, like that story of the torn hearts that I told a couple months ago with the little girl and the church elder who explained how we're always tearing bits from our own hearts and giving them to one another. You've seen me. You've loved me. You saw us. You loved us. I thank you. I often will say near the end of a wedding ceremony, words from my mentors, Bill and Barbara, Hamilton Hallway. Say to the couple after many, many years together, may you be able to say to each other, because you have loved me, you have given me faith in myself. Because you have loved me, you have given me faith in myself. And because I have seen the good in you, I have received faith in humanity. Because I have seen the good in you, I have received faith in humanity. I feel more confident and competent as a minister through having had this time with you than I ever have before. Because you have loved me, you have given me faith in myself. From this time with you, I feel renewed hope and excitement for the future of Unitarian Universalism, for the potential of congregations to continue to thrive and serve life in our modern hectic world. Because I've seen the good in you, I have received faith in humanity. Look what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. So words from E.E. Cummings, that great Unitarian poet, to close. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I'm never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear, and whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate. I want no world. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than the soul can hope or mind can hide. Here is the root of the root, and the bud of the bud, and the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than the soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. Maybe so. I love you. Thank you. Amen.